A Saints win, RFK Bill progress, a big week against the Eagles. Let's have a podcast. Hey there, good evening. Welcome once again to Commander's Gridiron. I'm your host, Steve Lockman, where we talk about all things on the field and off the field, Washington Commanders. As you know, we had a big game coming off our bye week against the New Orleans Saints that we're going to talk about in a bit. We're going to preview the Eagles' big matchup this coming Sunday in Landover, Maryland, do our Week 16 NFL picks, game nuggets, and everything much, much more. As you see across the bottom of your screen in the gold bar, you'll see all the topics that we're going to cover tonight. So you can keep up to date with what we've talked about, what's going to be coming up. Whether you're watching us on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, you can use the comment bar. We'd love to have some comments, interaction, and questions. Drop us a comment, drop us a question. Glad to have that interaction, have that discussion about not only our Commanders, but of course your team as well. Any questions you have on the field, off the field about my team, we'd love to chat. And of course, without further ado, let's get into off the field news, which is where we usually start our show every week. And as you can see with the scrolling bar across the bottom, there's kind of a little bit of headway, and actually some really big headway in the RFK site bill that was basically being held hostage per politics. And let's talk about it. Let's be honest, right? If you didn't think that a stadium site in the DMV was going to be a hot topic with politics played into it when it should just be cut and dry, you're severely mistaken, right? So you had U.S. senators from different jurisdictions lobbying for different items back and forth. This is in, this is out. And, you know, it's wow, like here it is, right? But after everything was done and it passed out of committee a couple of weeks ago, we knew that the deadline was going to be the current session of the federal House of Representatives as well as the U.S. Senate. Negotiation continued throughout the weekend in Capitol Hill, which basically gave us the process to make the bill law, right? So it was confirmed by Eric Flack, by Capitol Hill Insider, that the RFK bill was included in the continuing budget resolution, which would allow it to become law when the larger spending bill is passed by the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate, which basically makes D.C.'s all-out blitz to bring the Washington Commanders back to D.C. nearing a reality. Now, while this is not a formal ending to the site selection process for our Washington Commanders, it is another step forward for DC in their long process of getting that site back to usability for a proposal to the Washington Commanders. So it's really great, right? Because Oversight Chairman James Comer said that he has been assured that, as we said, it will be in that DC spending bill that the federal authorities have to pass as part of that resolution before the end of the year, or it become null and void. So, as you know, we had a great game coming on this past Sunday, coming off of the bye week against the New Orleans Saints. Dave jumps in, fellow Cowboy fan that I saw 3 weeks ago at FedEx Field. He's also one half of the team of them 215 boys. Dave says, "Hey, what's going on? Thanks for checking in tonight, Dave. Love to have you on. We'll probably have you on in about 2 to 3 weeks, maybe you and Paul, as we preview our last season Week 18 showdown against the Dallas Cowboys." And, you know, as we talked about it, coming off the bye week, it was kind of interesting to see where we were going to go, what we were going to do. And most of you know that the Commanders squeaked out that 20-19 victory against the New Orleans Saints. A lot of controversy coming down to the last minute of the game as well. And, look, before we recap the game and I get into it with our special host, who's going to be joining me here in a couple seconds, we're going to put up probably the big, much talked about that came out as a result of the game. Did the game need to get that close? Should have been in that close? Most people didn't even recognize the snafu at the end of the game with 9 seconds left, for those of you keeping track. Referees on the field didn't see it. TV commentators didn't see it. But social media pundits like myself were jumping all over it that, hey, look, the clock stopped. And actually, it stopped multiple times. So what am I referring to? The clock error on the Saints' last touchdown. So the short version of it is, the head referee, Sean Hockley, came out, and we'll get to his statement here with the pool reporter in a minute. Came out and said the clock was mistakenly stopped at 9 seconds for about 3 to 4 seconds before New Orleans' last score. So basically, they were going down the field through a pass inbounds to the tight end, which took him about to the 3-yard line. Clock should have never stopped, even for the reset of the chains. And this, basically the comparison to some fans was made that, the clock stops till the chains start or chains gets reset for the first down marker. That's the way it is in college football, not in the NFL. Clock should have kept moving, which basically would have taken the clock down to about 3 to 4 seconds, 4 if we're going to be generous, right? And then when they got up onto the ball, quarterback for the Saints spikes the ball, kill the clock with 4 seconds left, which basically gives them that last play, score a touchdown, and then go for the 2-point conversion. So, DC fans were kind of jumping up and down knowing that, hey, look, this error basically kept the Saints alive and caused, for lack of better terms, the touchdown to be scored to have the potential to tie the game or with a 2-point conversion be victorious for the New Orleans Saints. As I said, basically, the pool reporter, Luke Johnson, had an interview with referee Sean Hockley after the game, of which he was the head crew chief official. And as you can see in the dialogue posted there, basically the question was, thrown at Hockley, why did the clock stop? And basically Hockley said, look, nobody caught it. It's not a reviewable situation, apparently, under NFL rules now. And the referee mistakenly gave the hand signal, crossing the arms, stopped the clock. Clock person stopped it. Now, I guess, the clock person probably is in that dilemma, hey, what do I do? Clock should be running, referee signaling to stop it. He stops it. It's 4 seconds. That whole big deal. Look, in all honesty, the game should have never gotten to that point of basically allowing the Saints a touchdown to potentially tie the game. Anyhow, lots of penalties, some questionable coaching calls late in the game, including Dan Quinn's attempt to go for a 54-yard field goal with a kicker that was just signed to the team the day prior, who had already missed one before in the game. Do you punt the ball, pin the Saints deep with a real young quarterback to drive the length of the field, or do you give it to him at basically the 50-yard line and ultimately end up scoring? But, it kind of is what it is. So to kind of recap the Saints game, do some weekly picks with me here tonight. I am proud to have as a special guest Miss Kelsey Nicole Nelson, 2-time Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award winner, multiple award-winning sports journalist, radio host. She has many titles, many hats, and oh, by the way, is a GW professor as well. So, welcome.
Hi, it's great to meet you officially. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming. So, as we kind of alluded to with a little bit, and you kind of heard backstage a little bit, we're just recapping the Saints game, so to speak,
Right.
A lot closer than what it should have been. Your initial reactions on the Saints game and how we did coming off a bye week.
Yeah, look, Commanders fans, I know a lot of hearts probably paused for a little bit towards the end of that game. A game, that going into it, Commanders fans felt very heavy on. Like right before the game, I went on WWL Radio, which if you don't know, they're the Saints broadcast partner. And folks in New Orleans, the top sports station, and I was previewing this game. And, even them, right, they looked into this game like, okay, Washington's going to win, right? The Saints, we know they've been through injuries. Really, the Saints are kind of in that rebuild mode, right? Unfortunately, they started hot this season. And then they just kind of fell flat, right? And so the Saints right now are just fighting for identity, because if you've been to New Orleans and you know the pride and joy of Saints fans, like that's the living, breathing heartbeat. And then the other side of it, people are like, okay, look, Commanders coming off a bye week, right? Fresh legs, hopefully, rested bodies. And the Commanders, a team that really set the league on fire, you could say, right? To start, got everybody kind of talking and paying attention to DC football, again, for good reasons, which was really great. So all in all, a win is a win. This game we know is important when we think about that wild card position right in the postseason for Washington. And it wasn't the prettiest, right? Never like to see Jaden Daniels sacked 8 times in the offensive line get tested like that. I think that was a huge storyline for New Orleans. But Terry McLaurin having a game, I think, was huge. We know how great he can be. And honestly, I think he's a receiver, Steve, that's fighting for respect on the national level, right? Not enough people talk about Terry McLaurin. I know we're in a league full of amazing receivers, right? Where I'm old enough to remember we're living a lifetime with Justin Jefferson and, Jamar Chase. I get that. But Terry McLaurin, really being solid. But, I would have loved to see the ball passed a bit more. I think the defense, did what they could. I mean, look at the score wasn't super high. So that was great. Coming out of it. I think all in all, on offense, there's just some things that will have to click better. It's not good for Jaden to be the leading rusher on a team where we know when they run the ball well, they're so powerful. And again, I know without Austin Eckler, that is a huge loss. But all in all, a win's a win, Steve. I'm not going to come up here gloomy and stuff. Like, this is such a different Washington team than we were talking about last season. I think the fans, though, just see like this is a team that still does need some work, late into the season.
It is. And you brought up so many great points that we can touch on here over the next couple of minutes. First we'll touch on Terry McLaurin, right?
Yeah.
Aside from one season, Terry McLaurin would have 1,000 yards across every season in his NFL career, except for one. He had like 940 some, almost hit that 1,000 plateau. But, right now, even after this game against the Saints, Terry McLaurin became the 4th player in NFL history to reach 50 plus catches, 900 plus yards, could almost basically be 1,000 in every season in each of his first 6 seasons in the NFL. So congratulations to Terry. Terry's an awesome guy.
Yeah.
I always usually throw a shameless plug on my show, but I had the privilege of doing an autograph signing with Terry last week during the bye week.
Fun. Very cool.
Awesome dude. I love working with him. Very personable. We talk about everything. He's super excited to talk about football and the energy around the team this year with Jaden and Dan Quinn and Kingsbury and the whole 9 yards. So I'm happy that guy is finally getting some production, getting some love. And as you said, he's kind of the silent number 1 wide receiver, obviously for our team, but even in the league, right? Most people would not put him at the beginning of the season in the top 15 wide receivers in the NFL. And he's quietly been top 10 in statistical categories basically throughout the entire season.
Yeah.
Super awesome.
It's just hard when you're in DC, right? For so long, this team was on nobody's radar. And the last time this team, if you think about it, was really relevant, I was working for the team then, right? You have to go back to the COVID year, 2020, when they went to the postseason, when that was a crazy NFC East, right? When everybody was like bad, but the Commanders were the best of the bad. And this is, when our former guy, Taylor Heineke, kind of the legend was born.
Yes.
And that
the dive of Taylor Heineke into the end zone over the pylon, right? But you bring up this other point as well too, that we're supposed to be in a rebuild, and under new ownership, new GM Adam Peters and Dan Quinn and his coaching staff, I don't think if you would ask any let's call it true fan, even though they don't like that moniker, at the beginning of the season or in trading camp, that we would be sitting at 9-5 with a solid shot at the wild card going into the playoffs with 3 weeks remaining. This is supposed to be a 3 to 5 year process. What are your thoughts on kind of where we are and this rebuild, knowing that we're far exceeding expectations already?
Yeah, just before I got on your show, Steve, I was on a different show discussing the Wizards rebuild. And I'll tell you, there's a whole different heartbeat around the Commanders rebuild versus the Wizards rebuild, right? It's hard to say that when you've got 3 wins, for the basketball team. I think for football fans, Jaden Daniels got us all excited, right? I was one of those people high on him when he came here. I said he was going to be the guy when I had so many folks in my ear, Steve, telling me, no, Drake May. No. There's one guy for the job in Washington, right? And it's him. But all in all, I feel confident right now with where Washington is. Again, they surpassed our expectations. Going into the season, there was a lot of talk about Philadelphia, who you could say is doing what they, need to be doing, even though, Jalen Hurts, I think, is going to be coming into this week in Washington. I think you could tell he's feeling away. He hears the narratives around him. He hears all the talk and all the chatter. And even though the Eagles are a top team, right, really honestly probably not getting respect just because people feeling like, okay, yeah, they look good, but are they great, right? Can they be Super Bowl worthy, right? Will we see them in New Orleans for Super Bowl? So I think, and the other team everyone was talking about was the Cowboys. And my gosh, what happened to Dallas? Now I'm having to listen to Jerry Jones talk about eating squirrel meat, growing up. We're like, what's going on with the Dallas Cowboys? They have a lot of questions. There's questions about Dak. We see Michael Parsons on that defense getting fired up and angry, right? There's just so many storylines in Dallas. So all that to say, Washington was a team that most people thought would be competing with the Giants, and the Giants are the Giants. They are who we said they would be, competing for that bottom. But instead, for a while, Washington was on top, which was hot, and everybody was talking about them. So all in all, I feel like this is a growth team. What happened was people live for moments rather than movements. The Commanders are trying to build a movement, again, of excellence, Steve, right? Of the old days, the glory days, and that takes time. But we were all hot in the moment when the Commanders got off so hot. But like you said, Jaden Daniels, remember, folks, he's a rookie. I know he's incredible and he's amazing, but he's young, right? We know this offense is trying to get more guys involved, right? Into spreading the football around, right? Him having multiple weapons so he can be at his greatest, right? We were excited about the offensive line for the most part of this season, right? Because, to be fair, Sam Howell could only do so much when when you're on your back a lot of the times, right? So, all in all to say, like, I think the Commanders are where they need to be. Yes, I see the improvements that need to be made on offense. I'll be the first person to call them out, again, as a journalist that's objective. And though I grew up in this area, I'm going to call out wrongs, right, when they're wrong. But, like, this is still a team that, again, folks, you can see in the postseason, this is exciting right now. So, I think for them, just being able to regroup, they have a big game coming up, which I think will really talk to who they are, right? Show me who you are in the face of adversity, in the face, of a beast and a giant, right? Can you slay Goliath? That's kind of what I want to see for Washington. So I feel secure with where Washington is in the growth period, just knowing what the team has went through, not just on the football field, right, but off the football field, working to change the culture, working to make sure that the players in the locker room are also excited and happy to be on that field. Because I'm also old enough to remember when the whole debacle happened with Eric Bieniemy and players saying, "Oh, they're too tough on us and too hard." So it just seems like we're not hearing those crazy storylines. So yeah, Washington is where they're supposed to be.
So it's so funny that you bring up the EB angle, because one of the things, so when we do these autograph signings with different professional athletes, they're anywhere from an hour to 4 hours long. So you get a lot of, interaction with these players. And it was so interesting that you bring up EB, because a conversation and a narrative came up with McLaurin while he's signing helmets. And I asked him what the vibe was like with Quinn and Kingsbury compared to last season. Now, a lot of guys don't want to talk football. They just want to talk, life or whatever. And
Terry's the football stuff. And that.
Right. But Terry's great. Right. And Terry made a really good point that, as I look back at the last 15 counting the bye week, 15 weeks of football, his statement and story holds so true, right? He said, the vibe and the feeling along with the coaching of the current staff is day and night to what it was last year.
Look at that.
And I said, and I was like, he's signing, we're swapping helmets and stuff. He's giving more stuff signed. And I'm like, okay, do tell, like, elaborate, right?
Right. Tell me more. Yeah.
Not thinking that he's going to give me juicy juice, but he did. He goes, we got worked so hard every day, except for game day last year under Ron Rivera and EB. It wasn't funny. He goes, let's be honest. He goes, there's a reason why you saw us come out flat so many times in the first quarter or first half of the games of last year compared to this season. Right. He's like, now look, I'm not going to say that they're soft this year and, we're not practicing, because we are.
Right.
But he goes, we're more efficient at what we're doing at practice this year, that we don't have to practice as hard or as grueling as what we did last year under Rivera. And then, like, the more I think about it and what I see this season, as you probably saw compared to last season, I'm like, holy shit, like, you're right. Like, the team, other than a couple times here and there, the
Yeah.
team's coming out pretty decent. We
Yeah.
usually have a really good first half. And for whatever reason, we haven't figured out how to play ball in the second half, or the defense gives up a bunch of points or whatever. And
Right.
Joe Witt has 3 weeks to figure that out. But,
Yeah.
it's just really interesting that you bring that up about EB. And then McLaurin had that conversation that, look, like it's a completely different vibe and feel with the coaching staff this year compared to last year. So,
and that's huge to hear, directly from the player's mouth, right? And that
it is. It is.
That's very telling.
It is. So you brought up a lot of other good points about, the Saints game, and specifically for those, most of us, as fans know this happened, but for those of us listening that don't, Zach Ertz got injured, went into concussion protocol.
Right.
Jeremy Chin had a kind of a devastating hit secondary to the tackle. He's now in concussion protocol as well. We went into the Saints game without starting center Tyler Biadasz, which, let's be honest, kind of proved pivotal and important to missing him.
Yeah.
I mean, whether you like to admit it or not, and there's questions on the offensive line between the rookie Coleman playing left tackle, should be playing left tackle, and Wiley over on the right-hand side. But Biadasz is kind of the heartbeat of that line.
Yeah.
And you saw something that we haven't really done much of the year, and we gave up 8 or 9 sacks.
Yeah.
Do you think that is directly a result of Biadasz not playing on Sunday?
Yeah, it was uncharacteristic, right? I mean, again, we saw that last season with the quarterback. This season, we felt like we fixed things. And, believe me, like I said, I'm still talking to New Orleans. And though they lost that game, there's a badge of pride in New Orleans still in that locker room and with fans because of that. They were able to get to one of the most talked quarterbacks right now. One of the guys that has a top selling jersey on Fanatics, and Daniels. And obviously it alters the game, right? As a quarterback, when you're thinking about the pressure coming, right? Like we talk, as much as we talk about Terry McLaurin, we also know the missed opportunities, right? With Terry McLaurin, you can think about the pressures, that were there and things like that. So, I think for Washington, I'm glad you brought up, what happened in that game. Health is wealth, right? In football, right? The other big storyline on Sunday was who was in Kansas City, right? And Patrick Mahomes, like, there's just certain pieces, that are going to be key. And I think for Jaden Daniels, again, with the size, with the stature, we know how special he can be. But he's special when he has that time to throw the football, right? I mean, We all remember that Hail Mary, right? And what he was able to do in Washington against the Chicago Bears. So, yes, I do think so. And, Washington's going to have to figure it out, right? But again, your team being healthy at this stretch of the season, folks, remember, we're only, so many days removed from Super Bowl now, right? It's about to be January. Before we know it, we're counting down to New Orleans. But yeah, if you look at the bad parts of the game, that was honestly probably the one that stuck out the most to me. In a place where Washington is just going to have to work again if they do want to see some type of success to really capitalize on what's been a special season.
Yes, it's been a super special season because we far exceeded expectations, not only to the fan level, but to like the national media level and the local media level as well. I've discussed it so many times on my show, and the other hosts of the NFC East teams, have given me much crap, but like we have basically been in sorrow and misery for the last 24 years, maybe one season except for 24 years, right?
It's true. Gen Zers don't know what a good Washington team is.
And you bring up injuries, which is always a key. And I think it's going to be a key to see who can rebound for next Sunday's game against the Eagles, right? So Zach Ertz is in concussion protocol. Jeremy Chin has not missed a single defensive snap, other than like I think a couple during the Chicago Bears game in prime time to the season. So he's basically Mr. Reliable. He's in concussion protocol,
right?
Whether or not he's going to be available or not. Biadasz hopefully will be back. Austin Eckler is still on IR. We're still going through the kicking carousel, trying to figure out,
who's going to be the guy. Yeah.
Who's the guy, right? We're on, I think I saw a stat the other day, we're on our 7th kicker so far this year.
It's wild. Where it was a quarterback carousel in Washington, now it's a kicker carousel.
It is, right? So, you say all of that, especially injuries and, a rookie quarterback and everything else that, we're going to dive into the week 16 picks here in a second, and I'll put it up on the screen for you and we'll go through them. But, let's talk about the Eagles game. Last time we faced the Eagles at Lincoln Financial, we did fairly well against the Eagles. We held Saquon Barkley pretty much in check for the entire first half. It wasn't until end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth, that he had 2 long runs, I think both of which might even went for touchdown, at least one of them. And that
Yeah.
basically broke the bone of our backs
Mhm.
and kind of sealed the deal for Eagles. But we kept it fairly close.
Right.
What do you think we're going to have to do to win or even keep it close again against the Eagles at home this weekend?
Yeah, this is going to be, I think, a defensive test, right? And with the Eagles coming in, like I said, the Eagles fell away, right? We're hearing stuff come out the locker room. We're hearing stuff about the quarterback, right? And again, Jalen Hurts coming out in that Kango was for good reason, right? He he wanted to make sure folks heard him loud and clear. Like, I think at this part of the season, he wants folks to know he's a serious quarterback in the National Football League, and that folks, just kind of need to rally behind. The problem with the Eagles is their weapons, right? And we knew that going into the season, but it's one thing to read it on paper. It's another thing to see it come together when they are able to have it come together. Yes, I would like Jalen Hurts to be more consistent, with the football and getting past there. It's kind of like the big storyline going into New Orleans because the Saints are a bad pass defense. My biggest storyline was like, how much can the Commanders pass the ball against that Saints team, right? Because again, they're a team that had struggled with it. And then because of the injuries going into that game, right? You're without two of your top receiver guys, right? With Eckler being out and Brown. The big question was, who's going to step up for Washington, in that sense. But all in all, I think for Washington, the defense is going to have to, make stops. You talked about Saquon. Why he's so special? Like he can start slow, and this is not just against Washington. This is, it's on that Baltimore game. He started slow, and then he ran off against the Ravens to have a signature game. It's like he will keep working and plugging away, Steve, until he finds his groove, right? So defensively, can you stop the run, right? Can you break up the passes? What's going to be your defensive identity in that game? I think that's going to be huge. I think the other thing is going to be, giving Jaden Daniels time going back to the offensive line to throw that football. Again, you don't want Terry McLaurin when he's good and he's special, but teams have also found ways to also contain Terry McLaurin at times, right? Because they know who Jaden wants to go through. Like, I mean, who wouldn't want it? If you're a quarterback of Washington, you better be going to Terry McLaurin, right? You better be using your top weapon, which means that other guys, I think, are going to have to step up in that sense. And again, going back to the injury point, who will those folks be? So I think it's gonna be the biggest thing. Can Jaden get a pass game going in Washington so he doesn't have to rely so much on his legs? I think the Eagles are going to be hard to just, for him to kind of scramble about and run about because they're going into this knowing that's, what he will do and can be dangerous on. But it's going to be who's going to step up big on the defense. And all in all, like I said, when you look at that Saints game, again, I know folks are still mad about it. Kelsey, Steve, did you see that final score? Did you know my anxiety went all the way up? But the defense, again, held fairly strong that game, all things considered. Right? I remember the big Alvin Kamara run. Again, he's AK, like, duh, he was going to have something because he's that special. But if the defense, again, can create their identity, and it would be good, I think, for the Eagles to make sure they don't score in that first offensive possession, right? Stop that scoring drive, keep momentum in Washington's way, and I think it can be a solid game for Washington. But again, I would look out for Jalen Hurts because he's looking to have a statement game, I think, this late in the season. And you have to think he thinks he might can do something against Washington, who's secondary, right? Could be good, but they're going to have to, again, hopefully not get those penalties against receivers who will test you.
It is. You got to think, and the one thing that, I haven't really seen too much. We saw the stats come out after Sunday's game against the Saints, but I haven't really seen much come out. I mean, granted, we're only on Tuesday, so a lot more will come out as the week goes on. But, let's be honest that, whether you want to call it a revenge game, his first game back from injury or whatever, Lattimore was huge in the game against the Saints, right? Not because he didn't have any interceptions, not because he didn't have any batted balls or whatever, but it was his presence. Now, I get it. It's the Saints. They're on like their third quarterback because Derek Carr and Taysom Hill are out for the season.
Right.
And
they just had a series of unfortunate
and they
events,
swapped quarterbacks at halftime anyhow. But, you got to respect the guy who can give you a stat of 29 snaps on defense, I think it was, and the Saints targeted him 0 times. Like they didn't want to throw the ball in that direction.
Yeah.
So you got to wonder if that is going to carry over at all against Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think they will target him. So New Orleans, it was personal, right? They know how
Right.
special Lattimore was, and they were like, "We're not giving you no storylines on your return back." It just so happened, of course, his first game back is against his old team in Washington. But I do think that's something that needs to be talked about because again, they didn't want to target him. Like you said, yes, we could talk all day about the Saints quarterback struggles and problems as they just try to find somebody that can be that guy to give them some type of spark. But again, you shut down part of their offense, with that. And, I love that moment for him, right? Essentially, he was that ex that they just didn't want no problems with. We're not even going to look your way. We're not going to go your way. We just want to be done with you, Lattimore. And that's what I thought New Orleans did. Again, against the Eagles, I don't think I think they're going to want to test him. Like, okay, you're back now. Are you really into a groove in Washington? But this is what he was brought on for, Steve, right? Because they know that he can live up and be brought to this moment. And this, let's be honest, he was a big need in Washington. There was some issues with that secondary.
Yes.
They addressed the need by bringing him in. And I think we feel a lot more confident now, with him back there. Now, there's a lot of chatter about Forbes, before he got cut. Just again, like what's happening on the secondary. And, I know Benjamin St. Juste this season as well has had some penalties when it comes down to it, but you got a veteran presence in Lattimore. Yeah. You got a guy that knows what he's doing. So
yeah. So
don't think the Eagles are going to go easy on him like New Orleans.
I would love to say that, I would feel a lot more warm and fuzzy, if we were able to get Chin back this weekend with Lattimore.
Yeah.
And the rookie Sam Still, who's playing lights out so far this season. The rookie
not talked
from
about
Michigan.
enough. Not talked about enough.
And he's not even playing in his natural position. So he's doing really well adjusting to that. But it's funny you bring up the former first round draft pick Forbes. I wasn't expecting an answer, but sometimes you get it out of players. I asked McLaurin, were you surprised that Forbes got cut? And he said, and he goes, honestly, yes and no. He goes, no, because you kind of saw the writing on the wall that, look, he's not getting game time. He's a healthy scratch the last couple of weeks.
Right.
Like, you kind of know something's going on. He's like, look, he's like, obviously I've been here 6 years. This is a business. New coaches come in, new coordinators come in, whatever. Like, you really have to double your effort to prove that you need to be somebody's guy, is basically what McLaurin said.
Yeah.
And he didn't see that from Forbes, good, bad, or indifferent, right? So he said, I don't want to say the easy way out was he's not Quinn and Peter's guy,
right?
But that's kind of the fact of where it was, right? But he did applaud Quinn for, look, it wasn't a phone call, it wasn't a text, it wasn't finding out on social media. Quinn called Forbes into the office, said, hey, look, this is what's going to happen. We're not going to wait till the end of the year. We're going to try and give you a chance to go to another team, get a fresh start, rather than wait till, the off season when everybody's done playing. Right. So, I can appreciate that from our coaching staff and our new GM.
Yeah.
But,
talks about the culture, right? That's been established in Washington.
But you probably wouldn't have seen in the last 4 years under Rivera. But, hey, that kind of is what it is. So, all right. So I didn't want to take up your whole time by being here the entire length of the show.
Yeah.
Which goes over an hour. But one of the things I usually do at the end, but we're going to bump it up so I can get your input, is NFL picks.
Ooh.
So basically, here's the slate of week 16 games.
Okay.
And we're going to run down, starting with the Broncos and the Chargers.
Ooh.
Just kind of tell me what you're feeling, who you think. I get it. It's Tuesday. We don't have injury reports. A lot can change. Storylines change until Saturday and Sunday. But, just kind of tell me who you're feeling with each game.
Okay.
For those of you that are listening and watching and are the gambling type, I can tell you that right now the Chargers are favored -3. Over under is 42.5. But this is going to be a great divisional game out in the AFC West between Justin Herbert and rookie Bo Nix. So
it's going to be good. I feel like the Chargers we're still figuring out, right? And I know they're under new leadership with Jim Harbaugh, and the Broncos, of course, coming off a high. But and this one, I think the easy pick is the Chargers. But I think that this could be a statement game for them. Again, I think we're still figuring out who they are this season. So I'll give me the Chargers in that one.
Chargers. I kind of like the Chargers. They're at home, SoFi. Harbaugh is going to redeem himself after last week's
He's
loss.
got to. He's had some
Um,
tough ones.
But even the bettors and the fans don't know who to favor because
Yeah.
typically you get 3 points for being at home, and that's what the Chargers have at home. So basically, even the average fan is like, I don't know who's going to win this game.
Yeah.
A lot of great divisional games. Next one, which is actually a Saturday game,
Oh, yeah. Which is
Saturday
good
night
with
game
Christmas
is
Day,
going to
with the
be
Christmas game that the Ravens have coming up and Beyonce.
right. It's going to be Pittsburgh and the Ravens.
Yeah.
And right now the Ravens are favored at 6.5.
Ooh, Baltimore's a tricky team this season, right? It's like, you know how good they are. And I know they're just coming off a huge win against the Giants. And yes, it was the Giants. But again, Lamar Jackson doing Lamar Jackson things. The thing for Baltimore, these divisional games in the AFC North, Steve, are so tough. I think here Lamar is going to have a clean game to win, has to have that ball protection, right? He can't have any fumbles. And that's going to be something I think going to be a talking point in this one. Russell Wilson coming back, and I think it's going to be it's a game he wants to win after their last one. And Mike Tomlin is Mike Tomlin. I think he's been more beloved this year, as we've gotten to see a little bit more into him. This is a tough one, but Baltimore, and this is home, right? This is in Baltimore, right?
It's in Baltimore.
It's in Baltimore. Baltimore at home, again, a little bit uncharacteristic this season. I think Baltimore knows that, that they need this win. They need this game, and give me the home crowd, helping Baltimore to inch us out. But I think it's going to be a close game in this one. It's going to come down to the wire, maybe even a field goal, in which there's a whole conversation you got to have in Baltimore.
It is, especially with the way Tucker's been the last couple of weeks.
Characteristic.
As much as I hate to say this, because I'm like surrounded by 4 NFL franchises here in where I live in South Central PA.
Yeah.
I think the Steelers are going to rebound off after that loss to the Eagles, figure out a way to win.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's going to be close, but I don't know. Something just tells me the Steelers are going to win against Baltimore on Saturday.
Those games are so hard. If I was a bettor, that's a game I wouldn't bet on because again, Baltimore and Pittsburgh can go. It can go either way. It just depends on which team.
It can, right? So the next game is Arizona Cardinals traveling east to Carolina. Arizona's favored by 4.5. Bryce Young has actually been looking half decent since he got benched halfway through the season.
Don't call it a comeback.
But it is still the Panthers, right?
It is still the Panthers, but their record, again, this is a team you really had to watch because their record won't show you it, but they've had some close games, right? That should have been on their radar. Again, the Panthers are another tricky team. It's, again, easy to pick the Cardinals, but the Panthers are a team they're the team that you don't want to see because they can sometimes show you things that, again, can have you on that losing end. I will pick the safe bet and pick the Cardinals, but honestly, this is a game I wouldn't be surprised to see the Panthers coming across that win column.
I'm going to go with you and say the Cardinals as well, kind of as the safe one. But, this is the same Panthers team that almost beat the Eagles 2 weeks ago.
They're scary. You don't know. I mean, and they've got nothing to lose right at this point.
Right. It is. Real quick. Let's see. Our good buddy Paul Spencer, host of Them 215 Boys, says the game of the week he thinks is going to be the Steelers and the Ravens. Hopefully Pickens is back. Hopefully Pickens is back.
Yep.
Kelsey, welcome to Out of Box of Sports. And please, Commanders beat the Eagles. I hope we do. And Dallas keep losing. They need a better draft pick. Yeah. It's funny because Dave and Paul co-host that Dallas Cowboys show. And, Dave even chimed in and said, it's turpentine, baby. Does that sound familiar to both of us? Just asking. I guess because of the last Dallas game. But yeah, between all the shenanigans out and Big D, they're just hoping for a better draft pick this year than where they're going to be sitting. So, we'll see what happens. The next game is going to be Tennessee at the Colts. This is going to be another close game. The Colts are only favored by 3.5 against Tennessee. Tennessee has been one of those teams that's basically been up and down.
I don't know what's going on with Tennessee. Yeah, they're interesting. That's the nicest way.
You'd like to think that Indy has their crap together, trying to get one of the last wild card spots in the AFC. The warm and fuzzies go to the Colts on this one, but how do you feel?
I think you have to do the safe bet. The Titans have been so interesting, right? They're just a team you can't figure out. If someone asks me who the Titans are, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure them out. They don't know who they are. That's why you don't know what's going to show up, on game day. Not that you feel as safe with the Colts, but they are the safer team where, again, you feel like they have some certain key pieces. to be able to pull that out. But again, another interesting game. But Tennessee, they've been so interesting, right? Like before this season, talk about a team that folks were scared of playing the Tennessee Titans. Titans have to figure out who's going to be the guy, and kind of work around that. But I think they've honestly been one of the more disappointing teams this season.
All right, next game is ours.
Ooh, yeah.
Eagles visit Landover for the second time this season.
Yeah.
I should say us playing the Eagles the second time this season. This time is at home in Landover. As I said, the spread for us is the Eagles at 3.5.
Wow.
So basically, they're calling us a split on paper. At least the betting odds are right now.
Yeah.
Still got 4 or 5 days till the game, but I'll put you on the spot. Give me a score for our beloved game.
Oh my gosh, this is a tough one. Like, you have the Eagles coming to town red hot, right? 10-game win streak. But all good things have to come to an end. But again, I still do like Philly. Again, they have those pieces, Paul. Steve, I almost called you Paul because I just saw Paul. And hi, Paul. A score in this one is tough, right? Washington came in early in the season being able to put up a lot of points, as we just saw in the Saints game. When they do play a quality defense, will they be able to do that? I think Philly is a quality defense. Give me 24-17. Who do I want to win this one? Give me 24-17. Commanders fans, don't hate me, but I think Jalen Hurts and the Eagles inch this one out.
It's interesting. I think even though we had the late bye week to get kind of somewhat healthy again, it's terrible having, a late season bye. But it's what we needed so bad at that time.
Yeah.
Guys in concussion protocol, which
the injuries, they hurt
injuries, which to 4 or 5 key players on our team. I'm not getting any warm and fuzzies about this game as much as I would love to beat the Eagles. And look, they're going to win the division more than likely. So even to give them one more loss would be great, but I just don't feel it deep down.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a little bit more high, maybe another touchdown or 2 on top of what you said. So I'm going to go with the Eagles at 34 and the Washington at 28.
Okay.
Only because look, Saquon's going to score 1 or 2. Hurts is going to have 1 or 2 touchdown passes as well. They're going to do what they're going to do because that's, what they do. But I also think that, we're going to be able to score some points as well. So,
I feel like watch for turnovers though in this game. I feel like this is going to be a game where turnovers are impactful. You got to play clean football in this game.
Maybe Hurts can help us out, right? Paul chimed in and said, "Hey, the Titans just benched Levi." Yep.
Levis.
Levi again. Rudolph is starting this week. It's a good thing they're not playing the Browns.
Titans just don't know what they want to do with Will Levis. It's crazy.
Yeah, so it kind of gives me even more thought to go with the Colts.
Right.
And Dave says, hey, he wants the draft pick. I, on the other hand, want to win out. In the words of Herman Edwards, you play to win the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Opposing Dallas fans, right? You didn't think you'd ever hear that. Paul says, hey, you got to start fast against the Eagles. They get strong in the second half. His prediction is Eagles 33, Commanders 26.
Okay.
I hope it's flipped, but
we got to be real. We're like, we got to keep it
real. You got to be real, right? Next game is going to be what I feel is going to be a good game. The Minnesota Vikings against the Seattle Seahawks. It's basically right now it's another super close game. Minnesota's only favored by 3. Going out west against the crazy Seahawks and the 12th fan. Basically that 12th man challenge out there. I guess the biggest thing, and I don't know if you know this or not, is Geno Smith going to be playing?
Yeah, I was going to say that. That's why for me, I'm got to go Vikings. Vikings, again, not a team that's talked about a lot, but the Vikings are one of the hottest teams in football right now, folks. They don't get the TV credit. Again, they don't get the recognition. But I think, Geno Smith, we don't want to write you off because we know you won't write back. But your injuries right now are hurting you. And without him, that's a Seattle team I do not trust. So, again, I think that's going to be something we have to look out for. But I could see caution and potentially no Geno.
Yeah. You got to think that, right, that like it's Minnesota 100% if Sam Howell steps on that field as a starting quarterback on Sunday.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest and
But I'm hearing it's more positive for Geno, right? So I'm not saying doom and gloom, but you just got to make sure he's fully healthy. Especially at this point in the season.
Yep. Kind of a trash game. Jacksonville Jaguars against the Las Vegas Raiders. I was hoping so much that the Raiders were going to win last night, but they didn't. Yeah, I don't know.
This is an interesting one. I mean, I don't know who's going to be tuning into this one. If you're tuning in this one, maybe the other channels just weren't working for you. I guess I'll go Jaguars in this one. This one's interesting. Not that anybody's going to be talking about this game, but honestly, this is one of the games too that can go either way because of the teams playing.
It is, and it's so interesting that literally the point spread is 1.5. Yeah, right. Yeah, you don't know. I just had a brain fart. He was the quarterback of the New England Patriots last year. He's now playing for Jacksonville in place of Trevor Lawrence. I can picture him, and I can't think of his name. Is he going to do better than
Are you talking about Mac Jones?
Yes, Mac Jones. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's what this game. This is probably honestly the hardest one to actually pick.
Yep, because he says, "Hey, the Jags versus the Raiders. It's a draft pick game." Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, you're not looking for.
And it's funny. I'll throw this out because I know Paul real well. Paul's going to be at the Penn State MSU game, freezing his butt off.
Stay warm, Paul.
I know we still got a couple days to go, but for those of you who are college football fans, Happy Valley is only like 2 hours away from my house.
Nice.
It's going to be crazy cold. There's a prediction of like 6 to 8 inches of snow for game time on Saturday. We were chatting the other night or yesterday with Paul. I'm not even sure if SMU has ever seen snow or played in snow, but it'll be super interesting to see what happens at that game at noon on Saturday in Happy Valley. But hey, yeah, we'll see what happens, right?
Stay warm. That's wild.
So
the Maryland girl in me can't say anything positive about Penn State as even though it's really not been a rivalry. But I will just say stay warm.
Sunday Night Football is Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys just won this past Sunday. Tampa actually won as well. I just think hey, look, even though Tampa's going into Dallas, they're the stronger team for me.
Yeah.
So I'd pick the Buccaneers.
I know better who Tampa is. I think I'm also going Tampa on this one. Dallas fans, look, y'all know y'all ain't got it together fully. Now Dallas has potential to win this game, but again, we just don't know which Dallas team is going to show up. I think right now Dallas is hard to put belief behind. I think again they went high into the season, but they are still slowly but surely figuring out who the guys are going to be. And you can see the frustration with Jerry, right, as he gets all the pressure. So, yeah, give me Tampa in this one. But I think that's going to be one of the better games of the day.
It's funny. Dave says, hey, we're coming. Cowboys. Yeah.
Good luck, Dave. They could win. Cowboys could win.
And Paul says, hey, like you just said, Paul's going to, echo their sentiments. Right. Which Cowboys team is going to show up on Sunday night? Yeah, you don't know which one, right? Houston at Kansas City, probably one of the other better games of the weekend. It's going to be actually a Saturday game as well, with Houston going into Kansas City. You got to think that Mahomes is going to be ready to go, but it is a high ankle sprain. For us, I love DC fans. Yeah. If anybody caught the end of the Kansas City game, you saw former commander, Washington football team, whatever you want to call it, quarterback Carson Wentz go in and finish the game for Kansas City. Didn't do too bad. All honestly, but Houston Texans against the Kansas City Chiefs.
The Texans are probably one of the more surprising teams. Such high expectations, right, coming into this season after last season, and all the momentum that they built and the pieces, right, that they added. I think in this one, and Dave kind of alluded to it, Patrick, he wants to play football. At the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes is going to give you his all. I think the Chiefs obviously want to be safe with Patrick because obviously he's a big key and piece for them. But I think against the Texans, we do still see some Patty Mahomes. So, give me the Chiefs in this one. But again, the Texans just disappointing this season for what we thought they ought to be.
Yep. I would love to see the Texans win this game, but I think the Chiefs are going to end up pulling it out. Next game, which kind of depends on which team shows up. The
Yeah.
Giants against the Falcons.
Oh, talk about quarterback conversation that's going to be dominating. This is an interesting one. New York coming up a tough loss to Baltimore, and New York fans are they've been going through it, right? You broke up with your long-term guy and Danny, and then the Falcons and Kirk Cousins. People scratching their head and asking questions like, was that the right decision? Do we need to go the new guy next season? The Giants are just fine for respect, honestly, right now. But the Falcons are a team, again, who I think have defied expectations in the wrong way, and not rub folks right. I guess give me the Falcons. I trust the Giants never, just from what I've seen, but they could potentially win. But the Falcons, again, have more pieces. It's just that quarterback position that's going to have to really be the key and lead the charge.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the Falcons are going to win this game. But, the Falcons shouldn't even have beaten the Las Vegas Raiders last night. And, the last 4 games.
I just saw they bench Kirk Cousins for Michael Penix.
What's that?
I just saw Falcons bench Kirk Cousins for Michael Penix.
Did they really? Oh, wow. Yep. Dave says, hey, the Falcons bench Cousins.
Yeah, see?
That's
Dave, I saw it. I just saw
when you're in the hunt for a wild card spot, arguably in the hunt, and I'm going to talk about this here in a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Later on in the show, after winning last night, not losing, but winning, and then still going into the wild card hunt, that you have that much confidence or lack of confidence in your starting quarterback that you're going to bench the 3-year, $180 million guy for your first round, number 8 overall draft pick, is kind of a big statement, right?
That's huge. I mean,
it is.
Kirk Cousins, first off, again, has the best agent in sports. Like the money this man has made, like give me his agent any day.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
But that's huge. And I think this is the definition. Like life comes at you fast, right? There was so much expectation from Kirk Cousins going into the season. He brought the icy bling to Atlanta, but the bling is shining brighter than he is right now. But at this point in the season, we saw it work for Bryce Young. We talked about it for the Panthers. Obviously, for Kirk, much different situation, but the benching could be good. I think Kirk has said publicly, he knows he needs to be better. But when you're benched and see another guy, taking your place, I think it puts you in a different mindset and mentality.
Divisional game of the Lions against the Bears. Is this really a game?
My God. But the Lions, we have questions, right? When it goes back to injuries, right? And who this Lions team is. Now, the Lions are a team that folks are saying, we said it last season, folks feel like the Lions could have won the Super Bowl. But once again, they're feeling like, finally, Detroit, misery over. Could this be? The injuries worry me, but the Bears have so many more. They've got 99 problems, and the Lions will be one. So all that to say, give me the Lions in this one, but I am worried about Detroit's injuries.
Yeah. It's just crazy because the amount of injuries that the Lions have on defense, their offense just makes up for in scoring 40, 50 plus points every game. So the Bears haven't figured out how to get out of their own way yet. So you got to think the Lions are gonna win handedly against the Bears.
Yeah.
The LA Rams against Aaron Rodgers and the Jets.
The Rams are a very tricky, scary team, and Aaron Rodgers, I do not trust fully. I feel like I feel like I know more what I'm going to get from him on Pat McAfee than what I'm going to get from him on the football field. Things don't always connect. So, give me the Rams in this one. I tweeted this the other day. The Rams are that team you don't want to see at this point in the season because they can be special when they connect, right? I was just watching them the other night. So give me the Rams in this one. I think turnovers again. I think that's going to be a difference maker. But LA Rams are a team we need to talk more about, folks.
Yeah. Dave chimes in and says, hey, the Rams are the dark horse, whatever it is. But now that they got Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp back from injury, they've kind of just been on fire quietly with Williams as running back. I like the Rams as well.
Yeah.
The Cleveland Browns against Joe Burrow's Bengals.
Another AFC North battle. The AFC North battles, I swear, are the hardest to pick in football because, you got a Browns team that you don't know who's going to show up. And you got a Bengals team who Joe Burrow got uncharacteristic. He's had some good games, but uncharacteristic turnovers have plagued as well. He's got some special weapons around him. For Cleveland, I don't know, Jameis, who are you talking to this one? What line are you going to give us before this game? It's going to be powerful. If the football gods are on Jameis' side, you can see the Browns money. But give me the Bengals in this one. But again, another tough AFC North slugfest.
Yep, absolutely. I think we're both on board for the Buffalo Bills at
Bills
home
look
against
good.
the Patriots.
Yeah.
So, without saying, hey, we're both going to pick the Bills, real quick in kind of a minute or less. What do you think about Drake May, quarterback in New England? Paul thinks he's a bust.
Ooh.
Wanted to know your thoughts as well.
Can I just ask for apology notes from everybody that told me that the Commanders need to pick Drake May? I want personal apologies for Christmas. That's what I want. I think Drake May, he's a work in progress. A lot of work to see the progress. So all in all, but New England has to figure things out fast and quick. It starts with the quarterback, but again, I'm glad Jaden Daniels is here in Washington.
It is, and one of the things that comes up, Troy Aikman alluded to it on Monday Night Football last night and the week before as well. And, you see the comments in what Kevin O'Connell said a week or two ago about it's not the quarterback failing at these rookie quarterbacks failing, it's the teams failing the quarterbacks, and all these guys are 100% right that, it's the worst teams picking the best quarterbacks every year. And unless you have the system
to support
around them to support them, they're gonna be what they're gonna be, right? So you kind of got to take that with a grain of salt. So you're absolutely right. Drake May can be good. New England has to do a lot of work to put the pieces around him to be successful. But this season kind of is what it is with him. It'll be interesting to see.
And really quickly, Steve, I just saw Jameis is done. They're putting in another quarterback, so definitely give me the Bengals since they're starting Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
Who's their backup since Flacco doesn't play for them?
Thompson-Robinson is going to be who we see starting.
Oh, the quarterback carousel at the end of the season. We're
at that point.
Here's the season, right? San Francisco travels to South Beach against the Dolphins.
Man, San Francisco. We always talk about them, and sometimes not for the right reasons. Give me San Francisco in this one. And they have quality pieces. Just they've had a lot of storylines in San Francisco. Some guys on that team.
Seems to be like Days of Our Lives in the Bay Area, right?
They are the old Commanders team, right? With so many storylines off.
Let's be honest, and we'll fill those of you in who only watch like DC football or whatever. Here's the short version of the latest San Francisco debacle, right? We know guys have been out for injury. Guys have come back. CMC's back. Kittle came back. Debo's getting into sideline fights with his own teammates, whatever. Last week, Campbell, linebacker, was asked to go into the game, refused. His position coach, Kyle Shanahan, walks over, talks to him. Then I saw yesterday, I think it was, John Lynch actually came down out of his suite. And for those of you that don't know, John Lynch is a Hall of Famer, former safety in the NFL, now GM of the San Francisco 49ers, came down to the sideline and, personally addressed Campbell as well. And I saw that this afternoon they came out with a 3-game suspension for Campbell. Their goal was to not allow him to play for another NFL team this season and try and recoup as much money off of his contract and his signing bonus as they can in the process. So basically Campbell's season is done. But the saga keeps going with San Francisco. It'll be interesting to see what happens this week down in Miami with those guys. But I still think they have enough to put it together that they beat the Dolphins.
Same. It's like as much as they have going on, they're still a quality team that you just you can't erase. But my gosh, give me the Hard Knocks version of the season with San Francisco. It's crazy.
Last game of the week is the Saints against the Packers in Lambeau Field. It's probably going to be cold, could be snowy for all we know. Lambeau is Lambeau in December.
Oh yeah. You have the Saints, obviously. We talked about quarterbacks. Saints trying to figure out that guy, right? Who can step up. You got to take Green Bay in this one, but don't expect the Saints to lay flat and lay early. The Saints felt like they had confidence in that game against Washington. It felt like they could have got that win, though the clock was in their favor. But give me Green Bay in this one. But again, expect the Saints team to show up like they did against Washington. I do not expect this to be a blowout.
Actually, we're jumping back to the San Fran game. Dave thinks that the Fish win. The 49ers are falling fast. And it could be a game that, The 49ers could be that team that, has that late season collapse. Who knows? Purdy isn't playing the best right now. So, who knows? So before I let you go, we're going to fly through the rest of the show real quick. I'll condense it. We'll talk real fast because there's a couple things I want to get your thoughts on before we go. So for those of you keeping track of the NFL playoff picture, it basically looks like this right now. Here's the current playoff picture for the NFC, AFC. Let's focus on the right-hand side. Situation number one that guarantees Washington a lock into the wild card is a Washington win, an Atlanta loss, or a tie, and the Rams loss or tie. Okay, it's all those scenario-based stuff at the end of the season that we all get run into, right? Number two is Washington win, Atlanta loss or tie, or a Seattle loss or tie, because basically the NFC West has not been decided yet. There's basically three teams still vying for that division title, so those are kind of the scenarios that play into us getting that wild card spot. The third scenario is Washington tie, which rarely happens, but it does. An Atlanta loss, Arizona loss, Rams loss, and blah, blah, blah. It's like 4 teams, right? So basically, we kind of control our own destiny. 3 games left. Eagles, Falcons, Cowboys, week 18.
Yep.
In all reality, should finish the season 2-1. Let's be honest, we're probably going to lose against the Eagles, should beat the Falcons, should beat the Cowboys. But you got to play the ball games. That's how they work, right? So we have the real distinct possibility of finishing the season at 11-6, which would be huge for us. So that's kind of where we are. Look, can we move up to the 6th seed? Maybe. The NFC North with the Vikings, the Packers, and the Lions, they basically kind of all have to play each other over the next 3 weeks. So, their records could go back and forth. We could get bumped up to 6. Wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. I'd love to play number 6 seed again against the 3 seed rather than the Eagles. But, hey, for the way, like you mentioned earlier with the Lions and their injuries, the Lions might not end up with the number 1 overall seed. So, we'll see what happens, right? We'll go from there. It was announced earlier today as well, and we kind of knew this after the win against the Las Vegas Raiders last night, that the Sunday night game for week 17 is now going to be flexed. I think it was the Browns and somebody. It's basically like who wants to watch that game on primetime Sunday night.
Right. They want their ratings.
Right. So the interesting thing is going to be, hey, look, in 2 weeks, are we going to see Michael Penix for the first time against DC, or are we going to see the Kirk Cousins special on prime time? That will remain to be seen. But the Washington Commanders game has been officially flexed to Sunday Night Football in Week 17 on December 29th. Last but not least, as most of you know that watch my show throughout the month of December, in November we basically made our big plug for the Toys for Tots that we did down in Calvert County. The month of December, because our Toys for Tots event is done, is the Hog Farmers Christmas Amazon wish list to support pediatric cancer. Spread some holiday cheer and support a pediatric cancer patient by purchasing items from their wish list. You can visit the website, which is on our social media as well, to see the adorable kids in their wish list. There's still time to visit this list and make a difference for the kids in their holiday seasons. It's actually going to be at hogfarmerscharity.org/holiday-Amazon. And as I said, we've linked that up on Out of the Box Sports as well as Commanders Gridiron social medias. Great cause. Hog Farmers are a charitable foundation. They do a lot of work and events throughout the year for pediatric cancer in the DC area. I know one of the guys really well, Hog Farmer Keith. Tremendous guy. I see him at the home games when I go. Great cause. Still time, a little over a week and a half, if you feel so compelled to help out some kids with pediatric cancer and their holiday.
Wonderful.
All right. So before I let you go, one more housekeeping note.
Okay.
Next Tuesday is December 24th, Christmas Eve. I'm not 100% sure if we're going to be doing a show next Tuesday night or not. Kind of depends. I got to look at our family plans. Watch our social media handles. We might do it a little earlier, might do it at the same time. We'll see. We'll see what goes on. Lila usually goes to bed by like 8:30, 9 o'clock. So we might still throw a show together at on Tuesday night, Christmas Eve, and have a little
Nice.
holiday special. As always, I want to thank you for joining me tonight at Commander's Gridiron.
Thank you for having me.
Miss
This is fun.
Kelsey, we'll definitely have to do this again.
Sure.
I love bringing guests on that, want to talk football, talk about their favorite team, have a passion for this and what you do. So thank you for joining me. Tell everybody that's listening and watching where they can find you and interact with you.
Of course. Well, thanks again so much for having me. This was fun. Hi, Commanders fans, and anyway, Cowboys fans. We're a little bit of everything, which I absolutely love. But the easiest way to find me is my website, KelseyNicoleNelson.com. I'm on social media, The Real K Nelson. Facebook, LinkedIn, just Kelsey Nicole Nelson. And be sure to check out my podcast, Listen In with KNN.com. But like Steve said earlier, I'm a little bit everywhere. So best thing to do is follow me on social media because you never know where I am going to be. But looking forward to meeting some of y'all in person as well.
She is all over the place. As we can attest firsthand, this was about a month and a half work in progress, trying to get our schedules to sync that I could get you on tonight because you're covering college basketball, you're covering local basketball, you're covering this, you're covering that. And, hey, look, I'll squeeze in wherever I can.
No, I was so excited. Thank you for your patience. I got you right before the holidays. This is perfect.
I appreciate that. So, as always, Commanders fan, feel free, like I said, next Tuesday, same time, 8:30 p.m. at Out of the Box Sports Network. You can catch us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And until then, be a friend, tell a friend, say something nice, follow, like, and subscribe us, as well as follow, like, and subscribe Kelsey Nicole Nelson at her social media handles as well. And until then, have a good night.
Awesome. Bye, guys. Thank you so much.